In this video, I interview two brothers who were arrested for murder in Ecuador in 2017 and have been in prison ever since. You're going to want to hear this story. Follow along.
You're watching dcbornrob, erasing borders. And now, the news.
Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is you're located, and thanks for watching. My name is Rob Christian, also known as dcbornrob. I have a story for you today. I have an interview for you today of two gentlemen that are in prison, and I speak to them while they are in prison. They have been held in the Carcel Turi Prison in Cuenca, Ecuador since 2017. Briefly, what happened is they moved down to enjoy a better life in Ecuador, purchased some land, built a few homes on it, a few different structures on it. And all of a sudden, the police came to their door with a group of indigenous people. The police said they were told that there were drugs on the premises, that they were growing drugs on the premises somehow. And while they were inside being arrested and questioned, the indigenous people were out behind the house digging. And after digging, they found the remains of two Ecuadorians. And all heck broke loose at that point. Now, how did they know to go back there and start digging? Well, I'm not even going to go too much farther into this story. I want you to hear directly from them. So thank you guys for watching. Any support is always welcome for these guys. We need to get this story out. It has been nowhere. So if I didn't know about it, chances are you didn't know about it either. So hopefully this opens your eyes to what can happen when traveling abroad. If you had to tell me the entire story from the beginning in 3 minutes, how would you tell me?
Okay, well, the story really starts out with Ecuador just being my dream. When I was in college, I did an exchange program in Quito at the University of San Francisco, and I joined an ecotourism project. And I fell in love with what I saw out here. I love the natural living, the organic life, and it inspired me to try to move back here once I graduated. And I was fortunate enough that my parents had the finances available, and they helped me purchase a farm in Pelora, which is right in the middle of the Amazon jungle. I purchased a farm from a Canadian guy, and he had a pretty nice setup going on. He had a few cabañas. So the place was halfway working. And I started planting pitahaya, different fruits, getting farm animals, and publicizing what I was trying to do. And from there, bringing tourists from Australia, England, the US. It wasn't anything major, but through word of mouth, through contact in other tourist cities, I was getting people to come through. I ended up even opening up a small international club on the property that I catered to the locals and also to tourists that came through. And from there, that's how everything started. This was just a dream. I graduated from college. About 2 weeks after I graduated from college in 2014, I got on a plane with my dad and I flew down here and I started life in Ecuador.
Okay, you guys have family from Ecuador?
No, in the United States, my next door neighbors are Ecuadorian.
So that gave you the idea to go down and take a look at it?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me what happened. You had the location, you were living there. How long had you been there? How long had you been living there before you had any issues?
We've been living there from 2014. The issue came about in 2017, so 3 years.
Okay, so you had an I guess, I don't know if you would call it a resort, but you had a location where others could come in and visit and enjoy the nature, enjoy the food, and enjoy just the relationships between each other. And at some point, how did it happen? Someone told the police that there were bodies buried on your land?
Actually, it didn't start off with the police being told that there was bodies on our land. The victims' families first went and told the police that an American had a cocaine plantation on his property, and that I had police weapons stored on my farm. And this was the motivation for them to come onto my property.
Why would they
From
do
there,
that?
the police,
Why would someone do that?
it was in the hopes of getting the police to find dead bodies. That's what it came down to. Because when the warrant was issued, the victim's family served the warrant with the police.
Really? Okay. So they knew ahead of time, or they had a thought, someone informed them that there may have been bodies on the property.
The victim's father claimed that he knew ahead of time that there was dead bodies on the property. In his
Okay,
official statement, he presented to the police, and in the court, he stated that he was present before the police arrived for the warrant.
Okay. So you're there. Let me take a couple of steps back now. Where you're in prison right now, right? For how long?
They sentenced us to 34 years, 8 months.
And this began when?
We were sentenced in 2018. So the legal process took about a year for us to go to court, and then we were sentenced in 2018, January 2018.
Okay, let me ask you this, because I'm currently dealing with the U.S. Embassy in Colombia and representatives back in the U.S. I assume you've seen my videos on Mr. Reed being murdered in Colombia and my following up on that. I guess that's how you heard about me. But has the U.S. government at all rendered any assistance to you guys at all?
They considered assistance. I do not consider it assistance at all, because the only thing they offered to do for us, they said they can give us a list of lawyers that they recommend. They gave us this list in the middle of 2017 while we were in prison. And this list, we tried to contact lawyers on this list. Most of the lawyers that were on this list were civil lawyers or retired lawyers.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with that. I'm familiar with the list. I'm familiar with the disclaimer that came with that list that said that we don't recommend, here's a list of attorneys to use, but we don't know any of them and we can't vouch for them. And yeah, I'm very familiar with that. So that's the only communications? Have you had any further communications with the US government?
They contact us every 6 months. Since coronavirus has started, it's only been through video chat that they've spoken with us. And their questions are, how do you feel health-wise? Is anyone bothering you? Do you have any problems? And I'm not sure how up to date you are with the prison system here, but just February 23rd, in all the regional prisons in this country, there was an outbreak of gang war. In the prison that we're located, right in front of us, they murdered 33 people in a span of 2 hours.
Wow. Okay. So, and what's the name of this prison?
Carcel Turi.
And it's in Quito?
It's in Cuenca.
Cuenca. Okay, I may ask you for official names and so on afterwards in an email. But so I've never heard of the story before. So I'm going to guess it didn't make the US media circuit. Would I be true with that?
Yes, you're correct with that.
It did not. Okay, so let's go back. We know where you are. First of all, how old are both of you again?
I'm 28 years old.
I'm 37.
And who was down first? Which one of you guys went down first?
I did. I've been living here since I was 21 in 2014.
And then you asked for your brother to come down and give you a hand. Said, this is the life.
Yes.
So the police, let's go back to the beginnings. The victim's family had a warrant, came with the police to the property saying that there were bodies on the property. Once they got there that day, did they know where to go? Did they know where to dig?
Yes, the situation was they didn't come stating that there was dead bodies. They informed the police that there was drugs, a drug plantation, and police weapons on the property. So that was what the warrant stated. When they arrived with the police started to raid because I had 4 homes on the property. They started with the first home, and while the police were raiding the first home, where my brother and I were sleeping, the victim's family went behind the home and started to dig without police supervision. In about 15 to 20 minutes of the police, they still had us on the floor. We were just handcuffed laying on the floor. They kept asking us, do you know why we're here? I said, no, can you please explain to me? They said, because we believe you have a cocaine plantation. Right at that time, we hear screams outside. They now stand us up and they sit us down. We're sitting for about 5 minutes. A police officer comes in and says, do you know what's outside? I said, no. He said, there's 2 dead bodies in your backyard. From there, we hear more screams and yelling because it's an indigenous family that came with about 50 people to enter the farm with the police. From there, the prosecutor enters and says, do you know what's going on? I said, no, they keep telling me I have drugs and now they tell me I have 2 dead bodies on my property. He said, yes, you're under arrest. From there, the police take my brother and myself and they say, you guys are in danger. These indigenous will kill you. They load us into a pickup truck. My girlfriend was at my other house with her son. They handcuff her and take her son. They put us all in a pickup truck. But before I even get to the pickup truck, the police allow the indigenous to punch twice in the face. From there, we get into the pickup truck. They drive us off the property and they leave the indigenous there at the crime scene. From there, they don't take us to the local police station in Pelor because they keep insisting that the indigenous will come and kill us. So from there, they drive us about an hour and a half away to the city of Macas. We're still unsure of what is actually occurring here. We haven't seen any bodies. There's obviously no drug plantation on my property. They take us to Macas. I start insisting that I want a phone call. They say, not yet, not yet. I say, what is going on? Why are we under arrest? For what reason are we under arrest? They don't want to explain themselves. They said, wait till our superior comes. From there, I believe it was a captain that arrived, and he states, your property has completely been destroyed. In the time it took for them to take us off the property and drive us to Macas, which was about an hour and a half away, all the houses were completely ransacked, fridges, speakers, TVs, everything. Even the pigs, the cows, everything that was on the property was stolen, and the 4 homes were burned to the ground. From there, I continued to insist I need to make a phone call. So they finally allowed me permission to make a phone call. I called the embassy. The embassy, this was, I believe, a Saturday. The embassy states to us that if there's anyone that we want them to contact, I said, I would love for you guys to come and clarify the situation because we have no involvement. From there, they said, all we can do at this time for you is notify your family of what the situation is. From there, the police officer came in and he said, I want to take your statements. I said, I don't know what's going on. I don't even have a translator. At this time, my brother didn't speak Spanish. I said, my brother also has to understand what's going on. They said, you can translate. I said, at this point, no, I cannot. I was just learning Spanish myself. I was fluent, but nowhere at the level I am at now to translate for someone. Mm-hmm. From there, I said, I need a translator. They said, okay, we'll bring a translator in. A police officer leaves and comes back about 20 minutes later with his wife. I said, is she a translator? She said to me in Spanish, I do not want to get in problems. I do not speak English that well. I said, if that's the case, I also wouldn't want you to be in problems because in that area, it's known the reaction of the indigenous, that indigenous attack people. They try to hurt people if they feel that they're being done wrong. She said, I don't want to translate. Her husband, who's a police officer, said, no, please translate. We need you to translate because no one has given these people their rights. No one has read their rights to them. They don't understand the situation. And the legal process states that for anyone that does not speak the language, they need to be read their rights in their native tongue. At that point, she attempted to translate in broken English. And for me, I could understand her Spanish, but for my brother, it was completely impossible at that time to understand what she was trying to converse to us. So we just asked her, can you please stop? Because we're not we're not understanding your English. From there, the police got frustrated. They sent her away. They loaded us back up in a pickup truck, myself, my brother, my wife, all handcuffed. From there, they returned us to the town with about 5 police cars escorting us to go to the prosecutor's office to finally give our statements. We arrive at the prosecutor's office. There was a police bus also parked outside with police officers. I said at that time to the police officer that was driving us, I said, if we're such dangerous people, why do you have to protect us? They said, because the indigenous have completely burned and stolen everything from your farm, and they're threatening to kill you if you guys come back.
So the $1 million question is, for me, how did the family know to go behind your house and dig?
That is the best question. And the only answer we have is that they are the responsible ones. Because as this situation developed, through the process, they've asked for me to sign over my property. They've asked for us to give them $1 million. Then they dropped to $500,000. Then they dropped to $200,000. Then they dropped to $100,000. Because in this country, the prosecutor doesn't initially press charges. The family is the one who presses charge.
So you could have paid the money to the family and then they would have dropped the charges or not filed charges.
Exactly.
So, well, what's your thoughts on, I mean, if they knew where to go, you're right. It sounds like either they're the ones who put them there, or they're aware of where somebody put them. What's your thoughts on, how they ended up there?
Their father, the victim's father, is previously known for doing sansas and selling them internationally. Sansa is a reduced skull. Sansas. It's a reduced head when you cut someone's head off and reduce it and shrink it. And the victim's father, back in 2012, had a criminal case where 2 of his nieces disappeared and they were found without their heads. He was able to get off on this case, but his uncle is in prison for those 2 murders.
Do they do forensics there? I mean, could they tell how long they had been on the property? Did this predate you purchasing the property, or did someone go on your property while you were there?
This is a situation where someone went on our property while we were living there, because they do forensic in this country, but the prosecutor does not apply for any forensic data. The defense has to appeal for forensic data to be presented. And many lawyers in this country, from the beginning, we asked for our lawyers to do forensic, to do DNA, to fingerprint, any and everything that could be done. We said it's not an issue of paying. The lawyer stated to us, in this country, the prosecutor has to prove their case. After going through this situation, we learned that the prosecutor does not have to prove anything. It's all on the defense to prove your innocence. Because at trial, not only did we have the prosecutor presenting, but the victim's family also put a lawyer on the case that was allowed to present in court against us with the prosecutor.
Man. This has got to be one of the craziest stories I've ever heard. Honestly, man, I'm sorry you guys are having to go through this. Has your family gone down to visit you, and are they in contact with any higher ups in the U.S. government?
My mother and my father, they come down. Before coronavirus, they were coming about every month, sometimes twice a month, to meet with lawyers, and they were staying at least a week at a time every time they come down. Since coronavirus, there's been a lot more restrictions, but they've taken all the tests that were necessary, and they still made it possible and have gotten down here as frequently as possible to meet with lawyers, to try to see any and everyone they could talk to. In the US, they've made contact with the Ecuadorian embassy, the US embassy. They've written to senators. And it feels like the situation that we're going through, it feels like a lot of the government just wants to step back. They don't want to touch it.
Yep. Oh, what state are you from?
I was born in Washington, D.C., but I grew up in Maryland.
And what part of Maryland?
In Germantown, Maryland.
Germantown. Okay. You know I'm born in D.C., right? Hence
yeah, DC Rob.
DC born Rob. Yeah, you get it. Okay, so when you moved to Ecuador, were you coming from the DC, Maryland area, the DMV area?
Yeah, I had studied in university. I went to university in Pennsylvania. Okay. And then once I graduated in 2014 in May, I moved right back to DC. My dad helped me pack my bags, get some supplies together, and we jumped on a plane the first week of June and came down to Ecuador, and he helped me set up.
Did you ever live in DC?
No.
I actually lived in DC. But you possibly know our family. You know, our family had a store on George Avenue, the A&B Deli.
Where on George Avenue?
Right across from Roosevelt on Iowa, Georgia and Iowa.
Okay, so Petworth area.
Exactly, right up there, right across the street from Roosevelt High School in the library, directly across the street from there. Where all the Jamaicans and the Trinidadians and the Guyanese used to hang out back in the early 90s and the 80s.
I can picture the intersection. I can picture the library. I can picture all of that stuff right there. Yeah. Man, this is
everything.
This is too crazy, guys. So how did you hear about me? From the Reed story?
No, well, the way I end up hearing about you is just due to, like, I guess just the YouTube out here is just picking up everybody that's doing things that's expats, international. So I seen that you were blogging and you're from the area. I said, all right, this is the best person for me to reach out to first to get our story to. Because prior to this, we weren't in this prison before. We were actually in the prison where we were being charged. And that prison there, oh man, it wasn't controlled by a gang, I should say. So every 2-3 days, there was a shakedown to take your phone and stuff. So the access that we have now, we didn't have there at the other prison.
Okay, so that was my next question. It is better where you are right now.
It has its pros and cons. It's way more dangerous, but we have a chance to communicate with people. In the other prison, it's way calmer because it's considered an open prison, like a camp, where, you know, your family comes inside, you can touch them, they can come into your room, you can eat and everything, but cell phone access is not really available there. So it has its pros and cons. Here, the reason we have cell phone access here is because all the phones have been damaged downstairs. Like all the pay phones, those guys have ripped out all the electrical wires, everything for them. So you have no choice but to have a phone here. And to get a phone inside of here, just for one phone, is from $350 to $500, depending on the type.
So you're using this phone that's your interface to the outside world through YouTube, news, everything else is solely from the cell phone. Are you guys in the same cell together?
Yes, we're in the same cell. Let me give you a look of what the cell looks like. Mm-hmm. There's actually 6 beds in here.
Okay.
How to set up this. So myself and brother are in this cell together.
Okay. Man, this is too crazy. Can we slide it over again? There's still, like, on one side, there's like something white right there. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. And John, it's cutting off top of your head a little bit too. Okay. So, I mean, so wait a minute. So you're not familiar with my research and what I've done for Timothy Reed in Colombia?
Not familiar with the research. I've seen the interview that you did with his girlfriend that is from San Andres, and just the updates that you've been doing on that. But I haven't got too deep into the research and the contact that you made for them.
I got you. Now, I'm a sales guy. I'm in sales. That's what I do for a living. And then I started YouTubing when I moved to Colombia for 3 months a couple of years ago, and then just started continuing to vlog on on Colombia, in Medellin, Colombia. But recently I've had to get more involved. I didn't have to, but that case touched me so much of an American being killed in the country that I love and I knew it was a hit. I just knew it was a hit. I knew it wasn't random for a robbery, a robbery gone wrong, which is their standard response. So I've had to step up and learn quite a bit in the past 2 months as of yesterday, since it happened. So, and that involved communication with the family, attempting to get an attorney, research there because I have a lot of contacts still there. So I do have some people who are there who are giving me a hand. I have like 2 or 3 main people. Let me tell you something. If you were lucky enough to have assistance from these guys, especially this one, man, he's not an attorney, but he's damn sure close to it. Let me tell you something, because I would not be able to do what I've done so far without his assistance. With that said, I would like to, help bring your story to the light, because the main thing about that one is, on top of calling and emailing and tweeting and so on, 100 different news media sources, and it never made the U.S. news media. So I'm going to assume, since I've never heard of your story, that it has not been publicized here in the U.S. And this is, what year was this? 2017? So
yeah, we were arrested March 11th, 2017.
Yeah, so that's 4 years ago. And you guys have, this has not made the news media. So let me think. We need to, since you guys have the time and you have the cell phone and you have access to getting out, we need to do another interview. And we need to get into more depth, but there needs to be a list of questions. This was kind of impromptu, so I didn't have a list of questions ready for you, but there's some things that need to get out, and some people that need to be aware, especially on the governmental side. I believe that needs to step up and lend a hand in some form or fashion. What I've learned over the past 2 months is they don't really want to do much. They want to act like things don't happen. I'm waiting for a response now, a further response from the Department of State, but it looks like they just try to brush these things under the rug, and so they never make major news, and then nothing ever gets done. I personally believe if the senators and your congressmen get involved, that they can, work on your behalf. You still have family in Maryland, right? Maryland or DC?
Yes.
Okay.
We do.
So do you know who your senator is and who your congressman is?
At the current moment, no, I do not.
Okay, we'll find out, and if you'll give me a zip code or something, I can say that again. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. The only person that stood out to us is the new ambassador for the UN that is coming to Ecuador.
In the green year.
Ambassador for the UN or for the Ecuadorian ambassador or the U.S. ambassador?
U.S. ambassador for the UN. She was recently here in May, right after the change of presidents.
And her son is a Howard alumni. Right now, he's a lawyer. Hold on, let me get the paper. I have it written down.
Did either of you go to Howard? Well, John, you went to Pennsylvania. You went to school in Pennsylvania.
Yes, I went to Washington and Jefferson College.
I need all this stuff. I need a lot of stuff in writing, like congressmen and senators, an address. And let's see, I have a small audience, but I think your story needs to be heard. So I'm going to do what I can to push this out as best I can while still working on the Reed case, of course, and the job, girlfriend, families, everything else. But this has got to be heard, man. Let me tell you something. I'm so sorry for you guys that you guys even had to go through this, man. You seem like a couple of sharp brothers, man, and this is extremely unfortunate. Things like this, I think you just have to shine a light on. People have to know that this can even happen. And, like I've been saying in my last couple of videos, because I had somebody tell me, we assume the risk when we go overseas. But as many times as I've been overseas and to as many countries as I've been, I thought in the back of my head, the US government had my back. Ultimately, if something were to happen to me or to my family, I would think, I always thought, oh, you get back to the US embassy and that's America in that country and you're taken care of. They'll look out for you. It's sad to say that that's not true. We take that risk. And I've been trying to let guys know for the past, 2 or 3 weeks since I've evolved to know that the US government is not going to readily step up and represent you and your interest. Their goal is at a higher level from country to country, and they need to keep things smooth as possible. But, and I'm sure you guys have learned this as well, way more than I have. So let's see what we can do to get this story out. Is there anything else after the conviction? Because I read your story about, evidence being tampered with and so on. So there's a lot more details that we need to get into, but is there anything else to the story that my viewers need to know up front? Like in this video, something you think they need to know now?
The main thing for my part is the day that the report alleged that these guys went missing, Heru and Klinger. Heru actually was a DJ for my brother on the farm. He was a close friend of ours. His whole family was close. His grandfather worked on the farm. His brother did motocross. So he used to come on our farm and do his motocross on the farm, but no problem, because we had 125 acres. So it's difficult to monitor 125 acres, So the main thing that we want people to know and try to fight for us is that there was never any forensics done. No autopsy. The day that they alleged that these guys went missing, myself, my brother, our mom, our father, we were in another city about 3 to 4 hours away. So the day these guys went missing, we weren't even there. So that's the issue. And if they didn't do any forensics to determine time of death, location of death, and then they found blood, they never tested it. They found semen, they never tested it. It's a whole lot of things that they deliberately didn't test because it would have proved our innocence. In our case, they purposely charged us in 3 different categories. We had 2 antique guns on the farm. They charged us for the antique gun. I smoke weed. We had weed on the farm. They charged that separately. And then they charged us for murder. So originally when we were arrested, they only charged us for marijuana and 2 guns, right? And then for the murder. So originally we weren't even charged for murder. So what we want the viewers to do, what we want our family, friends, people that is watching this, we need forensics. This is what has turned over so many cases in the United States and across the world. If we can only get forensics done, we will be out of here tomorrow. We were charged March 11th, 2017. When we told them our alibis, our location, they decided to go there 3 months afterwards. So when they went there, they said our photos were no longer on the cameras, our receipts were no longer in the system, everything that was against us. So it made us look like we were liars. But if they would have went the same week we told them, listen, go to this restaurant, we're on the camera buying food. They're like, don't worry about it, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it. They end up going 3 to 4 months later. Even the judge got upset with the investigator for the prosecutor, asking him, why did you wait so long? Because that same day, we put our family on the bus to go back to the United States, to go to Quito. That bus ride is about an 8-hour ride for them to go back to Quito. So in the bus terminal, they had a receipt for that, but they waited 3 months to go and do the investigation. The receipt is no longer there. So they did everything to work in the favor of the family and not in the favor of us.
Okay, I'm going to stop here for part 1. We'll start part 2 tomorrow. Again, the attention span on YouTube is relatively low, so I want to make sure you get to hear everything that these gentlemen have to say. I personally think what has happened to them is extremely unfair. I'm glad they reached out to me, and I want to see what I can do on their behalf to shed light on this story, to bring this to the attention of the authorities and the people who can actually make a difference. So thank you guys for watching. Part 2 will be tomorrow.
We have a YouTube channel, like it.
Please comment and share if you liked the video. Please subscribe and kick the bell.